You're listening to Story Struck. I'm Rachel, an editor and writing coach.
And I'm Nino, a ghostwriter and book coach. Welcome to our curious community where we dive into everything books and writing.
Now, let's get into the episode. All right, everybody. Well, this is officially the last episode of season 1. We had such an awesome first season, and I cannot thank our guests that came on enough. And then we had wonderful conversations just, between each other. And so today we kind of wanted to do a little bit of a recap of, season 1 highlights, things that stood out to us, and also talking about our own creative journey this year, kind of our ups and downs and things like that to kind of help everybody see that everybody goes through it and what we kind of learned from ourselves, from our guests, and what we're looking forward to doing next year as we kind of put all of this in motion.
Yes, I'm so excited because I feel like this is the third podcast that I've attempted. And in true witchy form, third time's the charm. and so um but also just like an absolute delight to do with you. And I feel like we have grown our writers community so much, between just the amazing authors that we've had on and author adjacent people. And then also coming into like my story weavers community and watching that grow. And just this year has just been such a year of community building in so many ways. And I'm just so happy about it. And so grateful for it. Um, what was your favorite episode that we did, or like the guest that like blew your mind the most, or what the most fun? What were your thoughts?
Oh my goodness. There's so many. I just loved all of our guests and I took something away from every single one. But also
Hmm.
wanted to mention too with just the concept of starting the podcast. So if there's any authors that are thinking of starting a podcast, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but it has been so much fun. And if I didn't have you, I don't think I would have done this. So it was
Same. I
so
think that
awesome,
this is
right?
the formula. It
Yes.
is like my creativity and your organization comes together, and it's like the dream team because I had a podcast with another person at one point, and it was a situation where we had too much similarities. It
Okay.
was too much
Yep.
of like we were both chaos gremlins. And so there was nothing grounding it. And you grounded this podcast, whereas I am like chaos. And I think that really helps it. And then I had a podcast on my own, and it was just like talking into the void, and it was so much more difficult because of this like natural conversation and then bringing people on, and then just like the three of us or whatnot, just like making magic together. So yeah, it is a lot of work, but I feel like we've gotten our sea legs with it. um
Yes,
and
definitely.
we found the supportive systems. That's the trick, because let me tell you, trying to do like editing on like just the built-in editing software on my computer was no fun compared to the editing software that we have now and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
The systems make so much difference, let me just say.
Yeah, they it's use technology to help make your life easier. And I think that
Yes.
applies to anything in our writing journey, right? Find
Yes.
what makes it easier for you and what keeps it fun, right? Because if it's not fun, you're not going to keep doing it.
Okay, because that was one of the things, like, I think that even in all of the writers things that we've done, between the summits, talking to the authors, my own community, my own coaching, my own personal practice, like we have the ability as authors, especially in fiction, especially if you're a fiction writer, to access this whole new world and to play in Narnia person. You have this ability to just be in this whole new world. There's so much childlike innovation in that. And one of the things children do really well is they create these worlds in their mind. They're imaginative and they play. then we come into writing all excited in that space, and then we bring our adulting into it, and we make it a chore, and we suck the fun out of it because this is what we have been taught through school, through life, and becoming an adult, is how to suck the fun out of everything. And that is literally the most counterintuitive thing you can do as an author, is to just adult it too hard. So finding the joy and the play and the fun in your writing is literally such a freaking represented narrative.
So I think like in that vein of like finding systems that work for you, like we talk with so many people and like it was neat to see everyone has a different style. And so I thought that was really fun. And like tools to help you. So like I really like because I'm a big plotter, planner, all of that stuff. So I like to use things like Scrivener or index cards, things like that, so I can visually lay stuff out and see it. And, like, I found this year that tarot cards was a really great tool for me to use because that just, like, got my creative juices flowing, so we do have, like, a whole episode about that, so that's a fun one to look at. And then another one that I'm excited to try this coming year as I get into my writing was dictation. So we talked with Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer about that, and she has, like, a dictation boot camp. She has I think she has a free one about Scrivener. She has a free one on there, I can't remember what it was, but I believe she has something with that. But she has some great dictation, courses that she uses, and so I think that's gonna be really, really fun to be able to try that out next year when I'm actually in the writing phase and I'm done with, like, the planning. I have been using it for my planning as well, like, if I get an idea that comes to my mind, and I'll just put on the voice note and I'll talk it through. I think I mentioned this on an episode before, where you're like, talk with your character, and so I was just kinda going out for a walk, and I was like, Isolde, like, I'm kind of wondering about this thing. And then, like, boom, I was getting a download, and I'm like, holy crap, like, I'm in the middle of a walk. I don't want to, like, stop and write this down, but stopping and writing is like getting rid of my flow. So I just popped the voice notes on and I just talked it through. And then I had, that jumble of text. So that'll be something I want to play with next year too, is trying dictation methods where you're like, I'm actually speaking the punctuation, not
Mm.
perfectly, but at least like, okay, this is a, you know, new paragraph or something like that, like a little bit so it's not just a hot mess of text. So Sarah's stuff will definitely help me to get through that. And I think I'm gonna use her I believe it was a 5-minute dictation club or something she has. I think
Mm.
it's on Substack.
Yeah.
So I think I might do that as, like, my inspiration of every day, just doing, like, one little bitty thing that I can do when I need just a mental break from work. So that was a really fun episode and a tactic and thing that I'm excited to try.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I just went into writing in a Google Doc, and I didn't
Mhm.
use thing. I even turned off my Grammarly so that way I didn't have that to distract. And so like there was so much that it was just like writing a voice, or like doing a voice note just to get the idea out of my head, because usually they come to me in the shower and it's really hard to stop and write when you're naked in water. Like, so a voice note, I have so many voice notes with water in the background, it's ridiculous. But those are so helpful of just like getting it out and getting it like, preserved. So when you're
Yeah.
ready for it, it's there. Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, with her dictation stuff, that really blew my mind, because there's so often that I sit there and I'm like, "Oh, I have to block out an hour of quiet time alone to do my writing and stuff." And that one really opened my mind to like all these possibilities, because then I could literally be in the shower writing or I'd be doing the dishes and writing and stuff, because I devour books whenever I am listening to them and I'm doing housework. That is literally the only way I can do housework well, is if I got a book to listen to. And so if I can be writing my book while I'm doing it, then that would be great. And it's about finding that method. I did try it because I'm working on too many projects at once. And so I'm writing this cozy fantasy fairy book. And so I tried it with that, just kind of pacing around. I'm like, okay, I got 15 minutes before I have to pick up my son. Like, let me try this dictation and stuff. I find that my writing is not as pretty, but I think it's just about getting my sea legs with it and stuff because I don't think about punctuation in general. It's like,
Mhm.
not my strongest suit. So, that was kind of difficult to kind of work through, but I think, it's definitely something I want to explore more next year for sure. And her whole concept of that was really, really interesting. And I really enjoyed that. And then I loved our conversations that we had with Malquia and Krista.
Yeah.
Oh my God. First off, like all of our authors are just so kind and delightful, and we're just so grateful that they all came on. But sometimes it's just like personalities, like matching and emphasizing each other. And I feel like
Yeah.
our conversations with the two of them were just so, so fun. And I just love it. Oh my God. And Denise, she was also
Yeah.
fantastic with like the same thing. Like we could literally be talking for hours and not even like that's what those 3 podcast episodes felt like to me. Like I could just be talking to them for hours. I'm so excited for Krista's second book to come out so she can come back on and talk more
Yes.
about that because that was such a good conversation.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that was definitely one of, like, my highlights too, especially when we were talking about writing the romance, and, like, I totally did not expect, her to be like, I thought she'd had, like, this sweet, like, coming of age adult book, and, when she sent it out to her beta readers, she goes, "I thought it was sweet," and then they were like, "That was a steamy book," and I was like, I never expected that from, like, a sweet little like, you're like,
I
and I'm,
know.
"What? Okay." So, yeah, I, am almost done with the book that she graciously gave me, an advanced copy of, and it is just so delightful and fun. I cannot wait to read the next book.
Oh my god, my TBR is so long because I have
Right?
so many more author books on it, and I'm just like, I hate that I'm such a slow reader. Listen, I timed myself the other day because 'cause I'm like, "What is this?" I remember doing this in, like, high school, like, timing myself to see how fast I read a page.
Yeah.
Because 'Cause I'm, like, reading a book with somebody, and they're, like, turning pages constantly, and I'm like, "What the frick? How are you reading?" And I timed myself. My reading speed is the same as it was in high school, and I'm very offended at that fact because I read so much more. I figured it would have like sped up. It doesn't. It hasn't. And so if anyone has any tips for learning how to read faster, I would be very open to it because I have so many books that I have to read with my eyeballs, right? Because we have a lot of authors who don't have their audiobooks out yet. And so in order to get all the books in my brain that I wanna get in my brain as fast as I want them to be, I have to listen to audiobooks while I'm reading books. And so I'm like, I need people to, like, get audiobooks, or I need to be able to read faster. The people who read, like, 30 seconds a page blow my freaking mind. I'm at 3 minutes a page. 3 minutes a page. Can you imagine how long it takes me to read, like, just just 50 pages. Just 50 pages. So when we have, like, 50-page chapters and stuff like that, like, I'm listening to this book now that I had to go to listen to it because I couldn't read it with my eyeballs and grasp everything because I had to keep stopping in the middle of chapters, and her 2nd chapter is over an hour long, and I read it and I listen to it at a faster speed because they talk too slow for me. I don't know, it's a whole thing. That's my rant. Thank you for
But
coming.
yeah, I am also in the camp of liking the shorter chapters, especially for when I get the pockets of time. Like, I feel like I've accomplished more and like less like I am stopping in the middle of something, right? Just because of how we write the chapters, we're building, resolving something, ending, and it's like the end of a TV episode, and then we're going to get into the next one. So I feel like happier if I can finish a chapter in a reading session versus like a stop in the middle of this stuff like that. But it's interesting to hear your take on wanting to read faster because I look at people who speed read and I wonder, are they enjoying the book as much as I am? Because are
Mm.
they just speeding through it where I want to be immersed in the adventure, immersed in the story, where I feel like if I try to read too fast, that I'm skipping or missing details, or I'm not giving myself the time to enjoy the pleasure of the story. And so it's just kind of neat to see like how people like read and think differently. Cause for me, I'm like, I would never want to speed read. Like that just to me like seems
Least be able to read as fast as the audiobook reads,
okay, fair enough.
Like,
Okay.
I don't need to be a 30 seconds per page person because that is just so fast to me. And, I understand I'm dyslexic, I'm ADHD. There's a lot of spice in here. And so must be realistic. But, I'd like to trim it down a bit to be like, to where I can look at an audiobook and be like, oh, this is a 12-hour audiobook. And so I know that it would take me 12 hours to read said book or whatever
Okay.
instead of me
Okay.
doubling that number, because I decided I was mathing for some reason with this book that I'm reading. It's V.E. Schwab's newest book, and it's a heckin' chunker, like it's a thick girl, and I'm really, really loving it. But then I'm looking at my TBR. I'm like, I need to get through this faster so I can get to those.
I
I'm
agree.
halfway through it. Yeah, I was halfway through it, and and I'm like, "Okay, how much longer is it gonna take me to read the rest of it?" And I mathed it based on my 3 minutes a page, and I'm like, 17 hours? I'm like, "Isn't the whole book like a 17-hour read?" I was very upset about it. But anyways, back
Oh
to
my
the
god.
regular, podcast.
So I think something else that really stood out to me this year and I loved, and I feel like we actually got to start working on that this year was like the focus on like author friendships and author community. Like we had so many amazing people early in. It was like we had Casey, I'm trying to think, Melissa, Marissa, I believe, and oh my god, there was another one. My brain I'm sorry. So you guys,
Which
I have a memory disorder, so, like, it's
yeah,
really hard for me to
there's
remember
no
things.
yeah,
I'm, like, pulling
Casey
up our podcast list, so if I don't remember your
yeah,
name accurately, it's not that I don't remember you, I just have a memory issue.
yeah, and, so I connected with Casey in a community that we're both in, and she connected us with a good 4 authors,
Mhm.
I think it was, who then connected us with more authors, and it was just like, that's the thing with, like, writers because, like, we all just love the creative act, right? Also, great book, highly recommend, but the act of creating itself, and we love books, and we love talking about writing, and I think many of us were maybe a bit more isolated when we were younger in our reading and writing journey and stuff. So it wasn't something that we could really like talk real deeply about things with people that we knew. We were very in our own world with it. And it's just so nice to collectively like come together. And so, they're always every person we've talked to has been so like, "Oh my god, let me introduce you to so and so, and you should come to this." Like Trisha was the one who was just like, "Hey, we're having this big old thing. Like you should come to it." And stuff. And that's where we met Michael and
Yep.
or that's where I met Michael and I invited him onto the podcast. And I met a bunch of other authors, one of which we had to reschedule unfortunately. So she'll probably be on in season 2. But you know, like it's just been such a welcoming community, like, "Oh, yeah, and we know this person, you should talk to them, and we should talk to" you and also, like, it's great because as an author, no matter whether you're self-published or traditionally published, you have to do a lot of your own marketing with it, and so, at least there's that too, to where they're benefiting from, our lovely audience that is growing so much. Oh my god. It's so exciting to see the numbers and just be like, "Oh my god, we had 5,000 listeners this month," or whatever. Like it's so cool to be like, "Oh, we're actually talking to people who actually give a fuck."
And that how that led to the development of your community that you have for writers as
Mhm.
well, and, like, I know you just put on a workshop for them and have
We
some
do ups
events
like
that go.
monthly now because I just like talking to people about the creative process, especially because so as I think people who've listened to more than one episode of ours know by now, my creative process is also very spiritual process. And so that's kind of what my whole community is about. It's about, channeling your writing, connecting with your story. Cause like I talk about in my workshops, and stuff. I see stories as like multidimensional places that we are just pulling from, and we're getting this little thread and then we're putting our own spin on it and then we're creating a story that's coming from the ether, coming from, and so that's my interpretation of storycraft. And so my community is built around helping people find that and find their writing method and find their channeling method for their writing. And that's just my language to use, obviously, like some people don't see it as channeling, some people see it as something else. That's just my language. So it's been really, really cool because like I am actively seeing first time authors finding the access point to their stories through this method, through intuitive writing. And it's so freaking cool to see people who are like, I never thought that I would be doing this, or I can't believe I'm so many words in, or because they're doing it through this, like, channeling method of it and stuff, and it's just been really, really awesome to see that community grow, and then the people who are really active in the community, like, see the growth in them, and then also, like, get to know their stories and their processes, like, I know their character names and stuff like that, but it's not like they're, like, clients, because like,
Yeah.
in client situations, it's a little different. It's a little bit more guided where I'm leading
Mhm.
through things versus me just being able to participate with it. It's really cool.
Yeah, that was so fun, getting to work with you on that stuff for my story, and then I feel like that helps me get out of my analytical perfectionist mindset, which tends to be in itself a form of procrastination. Because 'cause I'm like, "I have to have it all laid out and have to have it perfect." So that kind of helps me to bridge the gap and be like, "Okay, well, I can be a little bit like that, but I do need to make forward progress." And that's led me to kind of trust, like, little things that come through, like, I just had, like, this download the other day for this end scene, like, at this massive climax of my book, and I was like and then I, like, left you a voice memo, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I just saw this, like, a movie playing in my head, this is so cool." So I dictated that down while I was, getting ready for work, so I was like, "Okay, I'm using all the different things I've been learning." Something else that I found really, really fascinating that I never would have thought of before, and I feel like almost every single author that we talked to, and then specifically talking with Troy Lambert and Michael Burke, was the power of short story and how short story helped
Yay.
to launch their career, and get them more and more connections. That just never clicked with me with short story, right? I come from that nonfiction background and stuff like that,
Mhm.
so that was just so cool, and I feel like that is on my to-do list for 2026, is to start doing some short story, and we're gonna have an episode coming up with that because I have this whole fun, gamification thing in my
Ye
mind, so that'll be really cool to discuss because 'cause I'm gonna test drive that for some short stories.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have us in the new year because holidays, but in the new year in the community, in the Story Weavers community, we do monthly challenges and I'm gonna have a short story challenge to help people kind of get the juices flowing. Right now I have a few people who are like so deep in their books and stuff that I don't think they'll participate, but for people who are like wanting to get those juices flowing, to just have like a short story a week, real easy, real approachable kind of thing. And then it can, a short story can be 1,000 words, or
Yeah,
whatnot. Think
and
that
that could even
technically
be a
is incorrect,
marketing
but
tool.
still.
So no, I
Yeah.
think that yeah, so that's still a short story. So we have like microfiction, flash fiction, short story, and
There's
they
too
kind
many
of have some
categories.
there's so many, right? Well, we'll chat
There's
about them
too
all
many
next
categories.
year, different
Yeah.
word counts and things. But I think too, like even if you are in the middle of writing your book, that short story could be something you use as a lead gen for your marketing for your book, right? Or it could even be just something you do to explore maybe something that's not on the page. So if there was like a backstory that happened to your character and it's not necessarily needs to be on the page, you could use that as a short story in
I
itself.
love
And
that
then,
idea.
right, either keep it for you or you could use that down the road as like a bonus thing for your readers and stuff.
I love that idea because my story is like this gap space in Norse mythology. And I'm like, what if I just rewrote some of the stories from Norse mythology, but from the perspective of Loki
Yeah.
and my book, my world kind of thing.
That
I love
sounds
that
so
idea.
fun. I love that, and that could be like a little series, right? So, like, if you
Right? That's
have,
the
like,
whole Substack series.
a reader
Speaking of
list. Yeah, then your Substack, yeah.
yeah, yeah, because speaking of Substack, that was another great episode we had with Haley talking about, ghostwriting process and book marketing and self-publishing and, having a Substack and stuff. Because it's I think that people, it's just like whenever you launch a business that, you're like, okay, well, once the website's launched, then people are going to be coming to me, and that's not how it actually works. And and so when you have a book out, you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to put the book out into the world and it'll make me money. And that's not how, like, it's not our reality anymore with the amount of books that we have, with the way marketing is, with the way the internet is, like. And so having different methods to market your book. Actually, we're going to have next year, we're having somebody on. I cannot even tell you how freaking excited I am to have her on. I've already met her, talked with her, and we are collaborating on some things I'm really excited about. Rachel has not met her yet. She doesn't know how much.
I know, I'm like, "I gotta wait till January now."
Oh my god. It's gonna be so good. So she's gonna be our first guest of season 2, and she's gonna be talking about author websites and the psychology of author website design and stuff. And it's just gonna be so awesome because, like, a lot of authors know that they need websites. And especially authors who've done a bit of research into the marketing space and stuff, and that's great. But a website is a science. And a lot of times, even if you go into, getting published by a publishing house, they're not often going to be supporting you in that. And that's going to be your own job to sort out. And that is such a huge make or break for a lot of readers who, look into you and stuff like that. And my God, the whole Rachel, you're gonna just like pass out. You're gonna be so because it's all about like the psychology of design. And she's got these amazing archetypes and this whole breakdown. I'm so freaking excited.
But because you know me and, like, branding and, brand
Right. Because we
dealing,
both come
and
from
that's where
a
we come
marketing
from.
background.
Yeah.
So it's like ching, and also, right? So it's like you have these fantasy worlds, right? So you're building your branding based on your book. And so it's like, so you have so much creative stuff that you can do that in other industries in marketing you would not be able to do. And she's got a whole like psychological breakdown of fonts and everything. It's
Oh,
gonna be so fun.
goodness.
I
Oh,
know
it's
I
gonna be
sound like I'm
amazing.
getting like real techie, but it's gonna be so fun and it's gonna be so valuable for authors who are launching a book, especially those who are self-publishing and have no major guidance with it
Yeah.
and stuff. I'm like, okay, when my book comes out, I know how to build a website. I know how to do a website. I've been doing them with my own business and helping other people's with theirs in the past and stuff. I am having her do my website because I'm so freaking excited about it for my Loki book when my Norse book comes out. I'm like, she's doing my website. I'm like,
That is awesome.
so
Yeah, I think next year we should have a few more people on talking about marketing. Maybe even having
mm,
Haley come back and share her experience with Substack, because I know that she was experimenting with that some more and things like that. Because I think marketing is a big aspect that we need to do no matter
mhm.
how we are published.
Yes.
Marketing is crucial. So I would love to have a few people come on and chat with us in the marketing realm of writing and authorship. Because, right, we're doing this to have a writing career. And, if we want to do that, then we have to do the business side and not just the creative side.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of authors struggle because it's, coming onto podcasts. and, doing writer summits and, doing little book tours in your area or, having a website and having a Substack and having a social media. And most of us just want to sit in our hobbit hole and write all day. And if we want our work to be read, especially for those like who feel called to write a story because they have an impact in mind with their story, or
Mm,
it's so important, like if you want your story to actually create the impact that it has the ability to do, to reach the people that it's going to affect the most, you got to put it out there, because if you're not marketing it, it's not going to be found very easily. I mean, that can happen with word of mouth and stuff like that, but in our world, the way things are set up right now, it's yeah. Also, I gotta reach out to this person. He was a speaker at the most recent summit that Daniel David Wallace did. That was a great podcast
oh,
episode.
yeah.
I
And any of
absolutely
his summits,
adore him.
go to his summits. Yeah, that was
Just
an awesome
go to him,
episode.
just do all of his summits because, like, the community he's building there is so amazing. The information and the people he has speaking there is just so valuable, and like, he has so much free shit. It's insane. He's just such a delightful human in general, but he had somebody on who was talking about cozy fantasy, and I just really, really want them on the podcast, so I gotta reach out to them and see if I can, get them on the podcast because they were just delightful, just talking so much about, like, queer cozy fantasies especially, which is
Oh.
my favorite. So, there were so many great people. Uh, and there's so much I'm looking forward to for next season. I'm also looking forward to, a break.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely a much needed break, refill our creative cups. Um, and I think something else I thought we had such a great collection of people this year, right? Like we had people who were authors, editors, illustrators, coaches, teachers. Like it was just a wonderful variety pack. And I thought it was so fun, like the conversations that we had with Deborah and Denise, who are both editors, and getting to see like their different takes and how they work with clients, and also helping to set people's minds at ease, right, about the editing process. And finding the right editor for you, I think, is so important because we have seen with people that we've worked with, authors we've talked to, about people that have like this really negative connotation of editing or
Right.
negative.
I one time honest, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, yeah, or like,
No,
they
you're
felt
just
like
being an
someone tried
ass.
to, yeah. It's like we're not here to take your voice away, to change your story, stuff like that. And I feel like so many people have had that negative experience that it just really breaks my heart. So, like, listen to those episodes
Yeah.
about, editing, what the editing should ideally feel like and be like. And when you're looking for editors, that is the whole point of doing like a test edit, is seeing, do your personalities mesh for how they give feedback and how you like to receive feedback. And like I always tell my people, right? I'm an editor. I'm not the writer. I'm not you. You don't have to do anything I put in the comments. That is totally down to you. I am there to meet in the middle. I represent you. I represent the reader. And we have to find that happy middle ground where you're getting your story across in your voice and the way you want it, but it is also connecting and coming across for the reader in the way that they need it and the way you want it to be.
Yeah, and that was something that is so, because like I say, I don't know, maybe I just say it in my community a lot, but writing is inherently vulnerable.
Yes.
Your writing is a piece of your heart and mind, and then you're putting it on the page to be consumed. And our world seems to be becoming a little increasingly critical. And sometimes that can seep into your mind and disrupt the direction and the flow that you're meant to go to. And then when you go to an editor and you get an overly critical point of view, it adds fuel to the fire that you're already
Mhm.
trying to die down. And I've seen situations where the editor feedback almost made an author throw out their book. And it's like, It's called a shitty first draft for a reason. And people, especially in like the nonfiction space, who maybe are not like avid readers or writers, but they just feel like, hey, this is a book that I really feel called to write. It's going to support people in XYZ ways. It's going to, help people based on my experience, based on my knowledge, based on my business, based on whatever it is. And I feel like in the nonfiction space, especially, um, this becomes an issue because they're not people who maybe are avid readers or writers. And so there's a little bit more gap and more vulnerability in there. And so there might be a little bit more support that's needed. And that's great. That's okay. But then they go to certain editors who are just like, well, I'm just being honest. And it can be very, very harsh and be very breaking for a new author. And that's not what we want. We want people to feel empowered to write and empowered to share their story. And it's about helping them find a way to get their story out in the best way possible without overriding their author voice, without overriding their story. And that balance is hard to find. I think when you're a very opinionated person or when you're just in this profession for maybe a long time. I don't know what the issue is with certain people, but I feel like that balance can be difficult because people put their ego into it and it has nothing to do with that. And editors like you, like Deborah, like Denise, come to it with that balanced perspective. And each of you has like your own special way of doing it and your own specialities that are going to be more suited for one thing versus another. Deborah really dives into structural, whereas Denise is going to probably give you some great feedback based on your characters, based on characterization and representation and things like that. And so it's all very different, and I think it's really, really important to emphasize that, and those episodes are really, really vital to listen to if you're in the editing phase. I am currently in the editing phase, and it's so hard. When Raymond said that you find out how much like, what kind of writer you are or how much of a writer you are in editing, he was not lying. Because when I heard that, I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see that, but I think everyone's a writer from the get-go and stuff like that," and I still think that that's true, like, you wrote something, you're a writer. But man, that self-editing phase, that's that's been my journey this year for the whole time on the podcast, I've been in editing, and let me tell you, I feel like I haven't made a whole lot of headway, even though I know I have, because I did some serious major developmental changes.
Yeah.
Just feel like I have barely made any headway in my book editing for this entire season.
So I think like if you are in that editing stage or any stage and you're writing and you're kind of having that imposter syndrome pop out, we did do an amazing episode on imposter syndrome. So definitely check that one out. And I think that next season, I would love to do some episodes on editing and like kind of the types of editing and like when you should go into those and like tips for self editing like before you get an editor because I think that's another challenge that people maybe go to an editor too soon and that's why they're getting a lot of feedback that is like whoa they're like holy moly because you don't want to right send that first draft to an editor you right that's our shitty first draft it's supposed to suck think of that as your version 0 draft all right that's not even your first draft that's v0 and when you're done with that, like, my suggestion to Nino was like, "Alright, don't send that to me yet. Like, I
Yeah.
want you to read through it first from start to finish, and don't worry about, like, going, fixing, doing all stuff. Like, you can make notes and things in here and there, right? But I don't want you to start doing your editing till you've read the whole thing. And I think for you, that was when you had that big aha moment of like like you're like, whoa, this should go in a different
Yeah.
direction, right? So that's where
I
you're gonna
had
see a
2
lot of these.
different ones. I
Mhm.
had 2 different big aha moments. One from reading it start to finish and realizing I'm like, "Oh, I'm putting too much of this one character's development into this book." it needs to be spread out. And then, which later led to another aha about the second book as a whole. And then the second one was the index cards. You had
Yeah.
told me, I'm just like, I feel so lost in this. And I was just like at this moment of like, do I take a break from this whole book for the next like month and then come back to it a month later? And or do I really try and hone in? And my guides, my spirit guides came in on that one. And I sent me this TED talk from literally out of the blue. I do not watch TED Talks, and it just like they sent it to me from literal nowhere, and it was exactly what I needed to hear. And I'm like, okay, I've got to push through this discomfort. I cannot take a break from it. And I contacted you. I'm like, I don't know what to do. This is how I am. And you're like, put it on cue cards and put it on the floor. Like lay the whole thing out. And I'm like, so first off, it's not even like a tip that's like super groundbreaking, no offense, but like it's something that's so talked about, you know? Like I remember reading about it in Jen Sincero's book when she was talking about writing her first book and how she had laid it out on index cards and stuff. And I'm just like, "Why haven't I done that?" And I did it, and it took me, like, a day to write it all out and set it all up and stuff, but when I did that, I'm like, "Oh my god, this is the issue," and I was just like and looking at the 2 book structures that I'm kind of modeling my book structure af it was just it was so huge. It was so huge, so I'm not gonna go on any more rampage on that. What was your creative growth and what are you intending for your creative practice next year for next season?
So I think my creative growth um, was the first part was letting my book be what it wanted to be because I think that's where I really got hung up this year. And I kept saying, I am writing cozy mysteries. That's what I'm going to write. I'm going to have this whole long series and, cozy mystery. I love it. That's what I'm going to do. And I was trying to force my book to be that because I was like, all right, well, those are marketable. I like to read them, blah, 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 blah. And as I got like working through my idea, like I just kept getting pushback from the story and pushback. And it was like, well, this is a cute story. Like it's a fun story. It would be a fun series to write, but that just wasn't what I need to write right now. Like I have this dark, like epic fantasy romantasy in my brain and it will not go away. And it's like spread across a multi-book series. And that is the book that just kept calling to me. And I kept like, no, go away. Cause like I'm supposed to be writing this one. And once I was like, all right, I can leave that cozy mystery idea aside. It's always there. It'll be there if I want to go back to it. This is where I need to be. And then I worked with you through the coaching process and stuff just started to go. And it was like, oh my goodness. So that was huge for me was letting go of feeling like I had to stick with that one story because like that felt more marketable. I felt like where I should be. Once I went into this, I realized, no, this is the world that I like to be in. Like, I do like to write dark. Like, I like to write like kind of with like Krista, right? We're like, what you like you that we didn't expect that from you. I didn't expect that from myself. That like I like have these like there's gonna be fight scenes. There's gonna be all this crazy stuff going on. So that was huge for my creative process. And then also working with you of really recognizing how my planning perfectionist mentality is more serving as a form of procrastination because I feel like everything has to be perfect and I'm thinking like 30 steps ahead. Like I'm like, all right, I'm thinking about this idea, but okay, well, I'm thinking about the marketing for this when I do this. And I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes, let's step back. Like we don't even have like a word written on the book yet. So like, let's kind of get into the creative flow. So I think that those have just been really interesting things for me to kind of figure out and learn to put more of that creative play back into it to try and overcome that perfectionist, my autistic brain of like I have to have everything, right? So for next year, um I'm actually going to get in the thick of writing it. Like I have to write every not gonna say every day, right? Because we've already talked about that. But I am going to focus on every week having my writing time around my schedule and getting it in and, having fun with, you know, maybe that dictation, whether even if it's like 5 minutes, like something is better than nothing. And just kind of letting it go in the flow and then experimenting with that short story as well, because then I feel like there's less pressure because I don't have to plot out this whole giant book. I'm plotting out something here and maybe using that as a tool, either to explore my characters, my world, or just to step back and get a break from my characters and world and let those ideas sit and marinate to lead to those aha moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such a great plan. I'm so excited for you to be in drafting phase because drafting phase so far is my favorite. My gosh. Okay. So obviously in my fiction experience, I've had ideation and drafting and self-editing. That is where I am with things. And stuff with like writing fiction. But there's something so magical about watching that story start to come to life on the page. And I'm so excited to see all of the magic that happens with you with it because I just think it's going to be so incredibly magical. And for me, my God, I need to get this freaking editing done. Like that's it. Like my whole goal is to finish the editing of this freaking book so I can A, send it off to you, and B, send it off to some agents to see about, querying it and stuff. Oh my God, because now I have such a clear vision of the series itself and what book 2 and book 3 is going to be about. I'm so excited to get started on book 2 and like to be able to get back into that drafting phase, right? Because I'm so excited about that drafting phase. I have so much planned out for book 2 and book 3. I even have the title of book 2 that I'm still working on book 3, but book 2 I have its title and everything. And I'm so excited to be in that drafting phase again that I'm like, let me just get done with this freaking editing phase and edit as good as I can so that way it's like it gets picked up and then I can just be in drafting for the second book. And then also to work on my fairy book because
Yeah.
it's a cozy fantasy versus my epic Norse mythology, kind of thing. So I thought honestly, when I went into writing this Norse mythology book, I thought I was actually like picking the easy way out. That like this book came to me and I felt really called to do it. I started channeling stuff for it, and I'm just like, yes. And also, I have Norse mythology as my system structure that I can build upon. I thought this would make it easier, and now I'm convinced that I actually picked the harder route after starting this cozy fantasy. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much freaking easier to make my own world than to build within an existing one. But I have a tendency of taking not only the hard way, but the long way. So it's fine. It's great. And I'm really excited about next year. I think next year we have so many amazing things planned. I just had an idea. What about us doing a podcast episode on nervous system regulation and creative nurturing?
Ooh.
Because I was thinking about like with you and your whole process this year, I think that the nervous system regulation piece of things is what has stood in our way with
Mhm.
life events, you know, occurring and dysregulating us and then like we can't access that creative flow because we're not feeling safe and secure. And then also, finding that creative play, nurturing your creative stuff instead of it being like chipping away. That's where that cozy fantasy came in for me. I was so like just reading and editing and reading and editing and stuff that like the creative play wasn't there. And so I started writing this cozy fantasy to just, find that creative moment again. And it helped me kind of get out of the adulting phase, or whatever. And so I think that could be a really great episode or a couple of episodes to talk about, finding that regulation and stuff. Yeah, it'd be really awesome if we could get a nonfiction author that talks about your nervous system. Yeah, we should look for them.
Yes, we are gonna be on the hunt now because that sounds like
Yeah.
an absolutely a splendid idea, and, like, that's kind of where I got this idea for this creative play thing that we're gonna do in,
Yeah.
season 2, which
Oh
is
my
just kinda
God.
really It's so fun.
Gamification for your book. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Well, let us know in the comments below what your favorite episode was. If there's anyone you want us to try and bring on, if there's any topics that you want us to cover, if there's a topic that we mentioned that you're like, yes, please, more of this. Like, tell us in the comments, email us, put it in the comments on social media or DM us on social media, like whatever, because we are literally here to just build a grounded, inclusive, ethical writing community. And we are making this for you listeners. So please let us know some way, shape, or form what's resonating with you, what you want more of. And if there's anybody that you're like, please bring this person on the podcast because we would love them on here. So, okay, without further ado, thank you for listening to season 1. That's a wrap.
It's been awesome.
Thank you for listening. Check out the show notes for details and links from the episode. And don't forget to subscribe and follow for more. Special thanks to our composer, Micah Silverstein. Enjoy the rest of the music.